it's just so much work to furnish a place. It's really hard to unfurnish it, and you do make more
Yeah.
money. So if you don't want to give that up, but you have an Airbnb, and maybe you just want to test your toes in like an STR, but I think this is a good kind of way to, if you want to self-manage it, it's way less work than an STR because you don't have the constant check-ins and guest comments and, issues and whatnot. So I feel like it's a way to dip your toes in if you want, and then you can always go, I mean, you basically are that much closer to having an STR, right? Because you've got it furnished. So
Welcome to the Creative Cash Flow Show. I'm your host, Jesse Mills, where we go show you every single week real estate secrets for achieving time and money freedom. And on the show today, ladies and gentlemen, I've got my new friend and fellow real estate investor coming to us from the West Coast, Miss Shona Lepis. And Shona, I'm pronouncing your name right? Shona Lepis?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Shona, so we got to know each other here in Park City, Utah, at a networking event, coaching event, mastermind that we went to, which right off the bat, I love you because you invest in yourself. I invest in myself, right? We understand that you got to go meet with other people and, grow your network so you can grow your net worth, right? And learn different strategies from people. And so one of the things that I was super pumped to talk to you about is the fact that you're doing something that is new to me. And so I want to learn. I know there's a lot of people that, watch and listen to the show that probably aren't doing midterm rentals yet and want to know more about midterm rentals. So Shona, tell us all about yourself, how you got into this, what you're doing. And I just can't wait to hear all about it. So thank you for being here. World's longest intro, by the way.
Thanks for having me. I love to talk real estate and I love your podcast. And I love talking about this stuff. So I really appreciate the opportunity. So I'll do the nutshell version. Let's see, on my background, I was a graphic designer. I used to do design and branding and websites back in the day. And then I had an agency and I transitioned to marketing. And then we'd always kind of been landlords kind of on the side, very traditionally, 20% down, leveraging equity, HELOCs, like very traditional. And I didn't really, it was just kind of a side thing because I believe in real estate and the power of it. And then I did a course, during COVID, and I'm like, oh, and I kind of thought I would be an agent, a real estate agent, because I didn't know you could kind of just be an investor. And I fell in love with
you bought a course during COVID?
Bought a course.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was, okay. I bought a course. Facebook got me the algorithms.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
You're chilling at home during COVID?
Yeah, I did a course. Done a couple courses now because, like you said, I do believe in education and learning, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And so the past year and a half, I've been a full-time investor. That's kind of my background. What I love about real estate is I feel like whatever your background is, you can leverage it in real estate. Like it kind of, whatever it is, you can somehow figure out how that is an asset. And I think that's really cool. The thing about real estate, it doesn't matter what your background is. Usually if you're good at numbers, that's really important. If you're a designer, you need to market, all the things, right? Like,
it's a really good point.
So it's just, there's always a place for everyone in this business. So that's why I love it. So midterm. So I've been a long time landlord. We had a couple Airbnbs, and I kind of love the idea of, I think anyone that wants to be a host, you kind of love the experience of it. I like to decorate and kind of leave a little note out and the whole thing. Right. And so we had a couple of them. We had co-hosts. So it wasn't super hands-on, and I loved it, but we're in Portland, kind of metro, and specifically in a neighborhood called North Portland, an area. And it's not destination, right? It's
okay.
It's,
this is good to know.
Yeah. So it's not like for Airbnb, if you're by the water and the super destination, like STRs, like hands down, that's the way to go. You can get the nightly rate, but we're competing with honestly, there's so many places that are charging like $75 a night. And it's like, that just doesn't make sense, right? It's just not really worth the constant turnover and the sheets and the stains.
That's like half my cleaning fee.
Right?
Like half. my cleaning
Right?
fee. That
Yeah.
might even be less than half my cleaning fee at a
Half
couple of
your, and it's like,
places.
and they're cute. They're like nice. It's like people that are kind of like want to some past side income, right? It's not
Yeah.
their main thing, so they can
Yeah.
afford to just. They have an. I don't know if ADU is a term that you have. It's additional dwelling unit, kind of in their house, so they'll do that. So
Hmm.
essentially, it was going okay, we and then COVID hit, and everything, as we all know, just kind of like screeched to a halt. And it was like we had it empty, and then we had some friends stay there, which was great. But then I kind of was looking at the numbers and I was like, like I don't want to unfurnish it. I poured my heart into this, right? And I
Yeah.
was like, you kind of make it your style and whatever you like, and you hope that guests like it. And so I was like, okay, I either go back to renting it, long term, right? And the first one I did was honestly under 400 square feet, like super small, right?
Wow.
Like really nice layout, really modern, but like I'm like looking at the numbers, like what could I really get for this? Like maybe
Hmm.
1,500. And I'm like, I don't have to unfurnish it. And so I just decided, well, what if I think I didn't know midterm was, a term for this, but I just decided to rent it, for a couple months at a time. That way I could leave it furnished. I could charge more of a premium. And I realized like, wow, I'm making pretty much just as much with the midterm a couple months versus this constant turnover and the headaches of
Mm.
guest inquiries. And, I mean, that's the game. You're like as good as your last review. So,
So like, how did you get to your pricing on that then?
you know,
Like, how did you
it's a
look at
little,
your short-term rental pricing and then get to your mid-term rental
yeah.
pricing and know
So
that you could charge that?
I developed this strategy where I'll put a number, I'll list it on, there's certain websites, and I'll just kind of,
Hmm.
it's kind of a gut check a little bit. Like I think it's worth this much and I'll kind of test it out.
Hmm.
So I kind of did that. And if I get someone, I'm like, okay, that's the right price. And I generally go kind of high and we'll see what I can get. And I've realized it is a bit seasonal. The
Hmm.
other thing that I've developed is like, if you're deciding if, hey, you've got like a long-term rental, is it worth furnishing it? Because there's like the upfront cost of furnishing it and all that. What I'll do is I call it an A/B test. So I'll have my long-term price, then I will take the pictures and have them digitally staged. I mean, it looks pretty good. It's not perfect. So I digitally stage it and I throw it up on like the sites that do midterm and I see if I rent it. And
Are
if I
you okay
rent
with
it,
sharing those sites, or do we need
yes,
to get your
yeah.
course to figure that out?
So there's a lot of them, and I'm not saying this is the one. I just stumbled on it. It's called Style Dot, and I don't know, maybe $20 an image, and they can put like a bed and a lamp and just you
Okay.
choose the style that you want. And so I've done that a couple times where I kind of it's like a little bit what's going to win, unfurnished or furnished. And if furnished wins, if I get a tenant, then I furnish it and I know the price.
Ah. So when
Yeah.
you're doing the digital staging, are you saying this is not staged? Bring your own stuff, or are you saying if you like this, we'll basically get it like this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I usually have some fine print like this is digitally staged, and I'm a big fan of when I get inquiries, I like to talk to people and go over the property and make sure, and I'll say, "Hey, this is staged digitally, but here's some other properties I have of my style." And for the most part, surprisingly, people are okay with it. A few people were like, "I don't know if it's legit," but for the most part, people were like, "Okay." I mean, it kind of worked. Like they weren't super concerned that it wasn't actually furnished. They were okay with it. So yeah. So
That's cool. Well, and one
yeah.
one thing too, I want to just jump in real fast before we get into some more nitty gritty of this. But you have a course, you have an online course yourself that you have created, right? That goes into this. So we're going to talk about that a little bit at the very end, and then for those of you listening, watching, I'll tell you how you can get access to her course. And this is something you charge for, obviously, right? It's not a free course because there's a ton of awesome content in there. But maybe for listeners of the show, they get a little something, something, right?
Yeah, definitely. That for sure. I'm just launching it. So yeah, I get a lot of people
Cool.
asking me questions and I just love to share. And I figured like I kind of figured this out on the go and I'd love to just help someone like, hey, here's all the things to do. Here's how to furnish it. Here's what mattress to buy. Here's what smart,
Oh wow.
all those things that, you're like, it's so overwhelming when you go on Amazon, you just smart lock and you're just like, oh,
Yeah.
so yeah.
That is huge. So, I mean, again, from our conversations that we've had right in the past, Sean, I mean, you and I know that some people like to just figure it all out themselves and play the guessing game and, have the control, or they're cheap in the sense that they like don't want to pay for help or guidance or advice, which is okay if you want to do it yourself. But guys, if someone's already done it and they've already figured out what's working and what's not working, and they've done the mistakes and the failures, I'm not saying that you have, but you probably have to a degree because it's new and you had to
Yeah.
figure it out, right? So like, I mean, that kind of stuff that just saves us time. Like, oh my God, nothing kills my brain and my creativity more than like staring at Amazon going, shit, do I get this one or this one or this one or this one? And I'm Captain Indecisive, right? So I'm like, oh man, well, I kind of like this one. I kind of like this one. And then after, like 5 minutes, I'm like, okay, maybe not five, maybe like 2 minutes. I'm like, Jesse, move on, bro. This isn't your best
Right.
and highest usage of your hourly time of what your hourly goal is, picking and choosing between these two mattresses, right? Or
Right. Oh,
these door
yeah.
locks. So I mean, for you to have that, I mean, I'll give you my Visa right now just to say, Jesse, go get this, right?
Right.
Like that stuff is so awesome to just know what other people are doing, and I can do that on a lot of my stuff with short-term rental stuff, and I'm actually kind of working on something similar on the STR side.
Oh, awesome. We should
Yeah.
compare notes on like our favorite
We
mattresses.
should. We totally should.
I
Yeah.
have a funny story about the mattress thing. So I ordered like a higher end, Casper or something from Amazon, and it wasn't coming. And I was like, or somehow there was a shipping issue, and I freaked out, and I was like, called, and I got escalated to like the large shipping department. This woman's like, let me tell you, get this other mattress. It's like $250. Like everyone loves it. And so I got that. And then I ended up, I got like quite a few of them because there was
Mhm.
an error. So I would just sell them on face because you can't return mattresses. So, but yeah, I mean, I stumbled on it, and guests are like, we love this mattress. And it's some hybrid-gel thing anyway. It's those little things that you trial and error, right? You're like, do I spend $1,000 on a mattress or do you get like one that, because it adds up, the furnishing, right? As you know,
Oh my
it's
God, it does.
an
Yeah.
investment for sure. Yeah. I think we
Yeah.
all love
Well,
Amazon, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. Bezos be making that Bezos money just from investors,
Yeah.
just from short-term and mid-term rental. I mean, oh my God. Yeah. And most of my places I've bought furnished, been pretty lucky. But even then when you buy it furnished, it's still like, holy crap. When you tally it all up, it's like, I spent how much? No, I
I
just got
know.
some crock pots and Keurigs and sheets. And it's like, hell no. It adds up
Yeah.
quick.
I mean, down to like my friend and I, Pasha, where I was joking, it's always the salt and pepper shakers that you're like, oh, and then the little things like the can opener. But you have to have that. Like, what would you want if you were staying somewhere? All those little details. And so I have
Mhm.
like a list of like kitchen, and it's kind of basic, but you just,
Love
and
this.
most people don't furnish a house every day. Like I've done it a
Right?
lot, so I'm like, I can do it. I'm like, I know, and I just get in that mode. But at first, I was like, so what do I need? Like, what you open
Yeah.
how many forks and wine glasses and water glasses?
Okay, so this is freaking awesome. So yeah, just to have access to that and seeing what to get and what not to get, and not to like want to stick a pencil through your eye because you can't make a decision on where to go and what to get. That's huge, right? So I love that, and just speeding up the process, making it easier, right? So people can get to that, which you do that in your course, which is super cool. And we could probably talk all day just on furnishings and
Right.
stuff like that, right? So you had a short-term rental and you said, you know what, this isn't maybe making its highest and best use of income for that property. And so you said, what if I can make the same amount of money? Was your goal the same or was your goal more and fewer people? Because obviously more check-ins, check-outs, cleaning, it's just more work, right? Was
It's more, I mean, I'd say, yeah. I mean, the goal was to kind of make a little more money and just not have the constant, just even though I had cleaners,
Yeah, I was gonna
and
say, did you have a team or are you doing this all yourself? How were you
I
doing that?
had a team, and they were great.
Mhm.
They actually, the first people I got actually were working at Airbnb, and it was a side gig. I'm like, why? I don't know why you want to be a co-host, but they were great. But there'd still be like, the guest needs an extra blanket, or they didn't know how to use the heater. And it was like this constant, just like little nagging things. Right. And I just looked at the numbers, and I was like, I love having it for our own use, but the numbers didn't pencil out. I was making as much as I would have made doing midterm. So it's just like, why? Plus all that, the headaches of just the things that the guests and what they need.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, I think STR, you make a lot more, but it just depends. Like, I'm not in a destination area, so my nightly rate, I can't charge, it's just not worth it. So,
So
I don't know if
did
that
you already
answered your
kind of know
question.
your audience then for your midterm? Are you going after like traveling nurses? You're going after like business folk?
Yeah.
Who's your clientele? Who's
So
who's your
yeah, that's
avatar? Your
right.
midterm avatar.
So I would say majority of them, there's a website called Furnish Finder. It's definitely one of the
Heard of that?
top places for advertising. It's like $100 per unit a year. I get a lot of leads from that. That's the majority of
Furnish
the
Finder.
people. There's also another niche with people. I guess digital nomads, right? They can just kind of work from anywhere and they kind of hop around to furnished places, which is, I mean, it's kind of awesome. It's like if you're doing, most people can work remote with COVID. I think that really escalated that opportunity. So
Huge.
I get people that are just like, I'm just working remote and they just book or Airbnbs or midterms. And that's the market. And there's a market of sometimes people are, they have family in town, maybe a new baby, so they wanna come help out their family, and you don't wanna go rent a place for 3 months and furnish it, right? That's just a lot of effort and not really worth it. So those are the 3, I guess,
Hmm.
avatars. Mostly traveling nurses, but there are people that are maybe they're remodeling their house and they need to stay somewhere, and again, you don't wanna, like, stay in a hotel for 3 months, right? So,
Yeah. Have you
yeah.
done one thing that I put in my little list of, hey, these are good creative ideas, Jesse, but I just don't get to it yet because, there's a billion other things to do in the day, but it's back there in the back of my mind is what about reaching out to a bunch of insurance companies and saying, hey, people who are homeless right now because of a fire or flood damage or sweet baby Jesus, all the folks in Florida right now, and they got to go somewhere,
That that's funny that you mentioned that because I get calls from the I've gotten calls from, like, placement agencies, and that's
Hmm.
what they do. They work with insurance adjusters too. So I haven't kind of tapped that market, but it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm like, there's a market that I haven't if I got on their list and said, "Here's all my properties," they would just come to me directly. So I haven't hasn't worked out, but I've talked to quite a few people, and there's definitely a niche in that because these people like, I talked to someone the other day, and they was a family, like a young kid, and the wife was literally about to have a baby, and they needed a place for, like, 8 to 10 months, and, they
Hmm.
needed it furnished, so there's definitely a market for that. I haven't gotten super down that road, but I think there is for sure a market, and you can charge a premium because it's a convenience that you're offering, so,
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
yeah.
totally. Well, and it's nice too because it really is, I mean, you're providing a good, needed, valuable service, right? Especially for
Mhm.
someone who has been displaced for whatever reason and they have to go somewhere else. And instead of a hotel, which gets outrageously expensive, I mean, you may have the pool and the continental breakfast, but after a while,
Right.
that gets a little old with 200
Right,
square
that
feet.
wears off.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
wears off. So yeah, so I mean, it's cool that you're doing something valuable and helping that way as well. So are you close to hospitals then?
That's a really good question. I mean, the Furnish Finder, you kind of put in your like the main hospitals, it'll automatically calculate it. Not super close, but I usually it's like 20 minutes to half an hour, which I think is reasonable. So
Hmm.
there's not like a hospital down the street. I mean, I think what
Hmm.
people are looking for is a place that's comfortable, that's safe, that
Hmm.
feels kinda homey, and they're willing to commute, and most people aren't gonna be able to walk to their hospital, so, I think that's and they can kinda or I'll help them map it out, but usually they know, like, I'm going to this hospital, and I'll say, "Okay, it's this far," 'cause I don't know all the hospitals, but, yeah, that's I think people also kind of want a place to call home and that's more comfortable than, like, a hotel, 'cause I also allow pets.
You do? Okay. I
I
was gonna
do,
ask about
which
that.
yeah, I mean, I don't know,
You say as you like bite your tongue. You're like, I do. You
I
cats and
charge
dogs?
pet rent now, and I feel like they're part of their family, and I screen pretty
Mhm.
well, so I feel like everyone's in responsible. Yeah, there's more cleaning and there's always a carpet cleaning, but I think people appreciate that, and again, you can you're charging a certain price and you allow pets, so
So
I
you're doing
do
like a
allow
full
pets.
on carpet cleaning, like deep shampoo, all that jazz in between people?
Yes.
Okay.
My carpet guy is, he's really much he'll get down and, like, smell spots and, like, treat everything if there are any issues. He's very,
Like it.
very thorough. So, yeah, I do allow pets. I didn't charge pet rent, but now I'm charging it because there is wear and tear that,
Yeah.
like, it's not really damage, right? So that's kind of newer for me, and I always felt kind of guilty about that, but now I do.
No,
It's
here's cool. I mean, people just expect it almost these days, right?
yeah,
They
yeah.
just expect it. So, and it is. It's more wear and tear. So what is the shortest midterm deal you do, and what's the longest midterm that you're seeing people are asking about or doing?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I'll do like a month, but I really shoot for 3 to 6 months. Like my sweet spot is like 6 months, and I get those more often than not. So you have 6
Mm,
months of someone just paying the rent. Once they're in there, they're not like guests so much where they're expecting you to bring over extra toilet paper or like there's something with the sheets. Like they're kind of renters at that point. So I usually shoot for a minimum of 3 months. If I have an opening, like, I'll be flexible, but, like, I have gotten 6 months. The first time I did this, I actually got someone in for they stayed for a year because their contract kept extending, and it was, like,
mm.
it was amazing. Like, they would be like, I don't know if we're going to extend, and they'd get extended. And it was a year of
Nice.
having a midterm. So I think I got a little spoiled by that. But so
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
3 to 6 months. And contracts will start kind of mid-month. So it's not always like, hey, they're coming on the 1st. They'll be like, I'm coming on the 15th. And so you have to be
Mhm.
kind of flexible in your terms. But
Gotcha. Now, do you have something kind of set up where, like, if it's a month, it's going to be this rate. If it's 3 months, it's this rate. If it's six, like a scale, or you kind of just do like a gut check of what you feel?
I've thought about that. I just have a set price, but it is more work to do a month. So I've considered that, but I usually just keep it like, hey, this is on my price, but
Mhm.
I'm considering it because it's a lot more work. But it's usually I get someone in for 3 months, so it's not a problem.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's that price.
Very cool. Very cool. So, and I love the examples of people that you've got right now that you're kind of, working with and helping. Are you looking for more midterms, or are you looking for more short terms, or kind of whatever fits the area in the market?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so. Part of the what appeals to me is I am a creative at heart, right? I love design, I love furnishing, so it's kind of a
Hmm.
creative outlet for me. So I think,
I hear a side business.
I
How
do
how
like
about you
that.
come over and just get all my places set up?
Right,
Okay.
yeah, no, I'll
Yeah.
just give me your credit card. I got it.
My
Um,
former assistant, that's how she did. And she was awesome. She's great at it. And she's just like, give me your card. I'm going to the stores. And I'm like, how did you pack an entire minivan full of stuff for one place? Holy cow. But she was
so,
awesome.
yeah, I think I would. And also, I think there's part of me that I feel like it is a need, and I like providing that experience and that value and someone to kind of call home. So I do like that part. I mean, there is, sometimes I weigh it like I got my long terms and I'll get like a text. I'm like, who is that again? Like I forget who they because they're in there for a while. But midterms, it's the turnover is a downside. I do think I would do more. I just kind of depends. What I have found is like I think midterm is really good for optimizing maybe smaller spaces like 1 to 2 bedrooms. I think then you
Hmm.
can really maximize like your rent when you get into like maybe 3 bedrooms, like that's just you have to deal with roommates. So I think it's really good for like I had this my first one was a studio. It was like it's basically a 1 bedroom, super cute, modern, but I can really maximize it. So I think it depends on, the size of it. So, I mean, I
Hmm.
am always looking to buy. So I think or sometimes I have duplexes where half is midterm, half is long term. So I kind of split the strategies. But I mean, I'm always rating our house for stuff. I like to decorate, I like to furnish. So I think that's part of the appeal. And I think, I mean, you can hire someone to do that, like of course, but that's
Hmm.
what appeals to me personally, I think. So I think I will do more, even though it is more work sometimes. But I do have systems in place that have helped kind of streamline
Yeah. Yeah.
process a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, maybe it's already in your head, maybe you're already doing it, but like having that side hustle of like helping other people get it set up, it's cool because you're actually doing it, right? Whereas
Yeah.
I've talked to some people in the past, like this friend of mine, she's a stager, a normal stager.
Mhm.
And she's like, hey, I can help. I'm like, hey, I'm not that kind of agent. That's not my business. I don't do just regular listings. I'm really not your dude for that. I said I'm doing everything weird, funky, and and rentals and investments and houses that you wouldn't even want to step foot in. Like I do all that jazz. I don't do regular, just please stage it nice stuff. But I'm like, what you could help me with, or any of a lot of my audience and people, is doing like short term rental staging and kind of getting it ready. But and she thought that was a great idea and she loved it. But you are doing like you're doing it. Like you have the properties, you're talking with the guests, you're talking with the people who are asking for those types of things, which is cool. So
Yeah, no, it's definitely I do have a little bit of shiny objects, so I'm like, "Oh, I could do that." No, I
of
feel
course
like
you do.
I've
You're an entrepreneur.
done it. Like the last one, I did it in 3 days. Like I knew what to order. I had my garage full of stuff, and I just
Mhm.
went and I did it, and it was a little stressful. But like the first one took me like a month, maybe more, right? Because I didn't know what mattress and what bed and now it's just kinda like secondhand, and I'll just kinda start collecting things when I know
Yeah.
if I know I have one coming up, so, yeah, and part of that is, like, a little it's fun for me, but yeah, no, I think adding character to it too, I mean, you wanna add a little bit of local flavor, maybe some local art or, like,
Mhm.
something that says, like, Portland or, like, local flavor for where you are, because I think people like that and that resonates with them versus some just, like, here's a bed and, your lamp and
Mhm.
no style, so
Yeah, I like that. I dig that. Yeah, then they're appreciating where they're at. It's
Yeah.
Extra cool touch. So as far as like digital door locks and entry codes and stuff like that, cameras, Nest thermostats, are you doing all the high tech stuff, digital
I
stuff?
love, I'm like, you wouldn't know from the beginning of this podcast. I'm like a super geek at heart. Like, I
Yeah.
love
Y'all
my
y'all
tech.
weren't here watching or listening to this before we hit record, but I think we were trying to do this from like the space station or some shit like that.
Not my best moment. Yeah, I've settled on, I mean, there's so many options. The August door lock, so it has the app. It also has, I love it because it has an app, it has a keypad, and you can use a key. So you get 3 different ways to get into the house. So, and I can unlock, I mean, like, I think most things you can unlock it remotely. You can set codes. So that I use the August. I usually put a ring on the outside. I don't put cameras inside. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then definitely Nest thermostats, and then like smart TV, and I'll usually include like Netflix and Amazon Prime, just keep it simple. And
Nice.
then sometimes like an Alexa or something for music. Those are kind of the main. There was a point where when I had the Airbnbs, I bought a couple of Roombas because I'm like, you could program them to run before the guests come. Like help my cleaners. So I didn't go down that road. It's a little
Oh my lord.
expensive, but
I would love to see that on Airbnb, the Roomba fee.
right.
Your cleaner missed a spot. Let me yell at my robot. Okay, hold
Well, they
on.
go under the beds, like it's hard to get under those places, like the
Hey, they
couch and
probably do
stuff.
better than half the cleaners out there, to be honest.
Right, yeah, I mean, so that was, I did go down that road, and then yeah,
Yeah.
but those are the main things I feel like definitely. And the other thing is, like, I think it's pretty common, but I don't meet my guests. I give, like, it's kind of like Airbnb notes, but I do like a welcome letter. The garbage goes out on this day. Here's how to, I don't know, water the plants. Like every little, here's
Hmm.
where the water filter is, like all those details. So I don't have to meet them. They kind of let themselves in, and I'll usually eventually meet them. Sometimes I never meet them.
Hmm.
So I kind of like automating that. Not that I don't like meeting people, but it's like I don't have to sit there and hand them a key and like go over all the
Oh, I've
house
never done
stuff.
that.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think some I wish I would. And others I've, been like staying at one of my properties that's next door to another property.
Ah,
And because I've got a handful in a row in one area. And so like, oh, that's the people there. And I'm like, they don't know I'm me. And I'm just keeping an eye and stuff.
right. Yeah.
Oh, it looks like 10 people and a cat. I'm pretty sure they only reserved it for 6.
Right.
No cats, no infants, but like, who is this crew?
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I sometimes it's funny to meet people when they've been in your place for quite a while, and they'll usually text me questions. But yeah, no, I like to go over all of the, just all the notes, like every house I feel like has certain quirks or certain things that you want, like how to do this, or I don't know,
Hmm.
those things. I really try and like overly document kind of.
Hmm.
So yeah.
I love it. So, okay, we have probably 5 minutes. I wish I could talk to you for another hour on this, so we might have to do maybe a part 2 or something like that. But got about another 5 minutes before we need to wrap this up. So, what I'd love to know, so the pros, obviously, I mean, especially if comparing to a short-term rental, the pros are you have just less work because you don't have people coming, going, check-ins, check-outs, right? Cleaners, you're probably spending way less on cleaning because our
Yeah.
cleaners are getting rich off us. And if you're all listening, cleaners, we love you. We're glad we're getting you rich, right? But I mean, it's a lot, right? It adds up. So that's good, right? So you have less turnover, less kind of headaches and hassles that way. The money is maybe the same or worse, but less, right? Depends.
So compared to a long term or an STR, like,
I mean, I'd imagine it's a triangle, it's a graph, right? I mean, a long term is going to be the least amount of revenue you're going to
yeah.
make, but it's also
Mhm.
the least amount of headaches.
Right.
Pick and choose, right?
It's
An
like,
STR is going to make the most typically, but you also got a lot of stuff going on, you know,
yeah, yeah.
a lot of stuff.
I was running numbers and I was like, okay, I'm going to compare what I could get. And it's a little seasonal. I was looking at numbers. At some points I got 50% more than long term. And I think an average I would say is 30%. Like, I don't want to exaggerate. Right. And I feel like it
Hmm.
is a little seasonal. And I think, if you have an Airbnb and you're like, you know what, this is great, but I just want a break. I just, maybe you have an off season. I think it's a great strategy if maybe I don't know. I feel like they are somewhat seasonal, depends on your location, but maybe you just want a break, or your cleaner quit and you're just like, I just want to try midterm. So you can rent it for 3 months and then put it back on Airbnb. So I also like it for that sense. If you have an Airbnb and you don't want to like unfurnish it and go back to just a standard rental, because it's just so much work to furnish a place. It's really hard. to unfurnish it, and you do make more
Yeah.
money. So if you don't want to give that up, but you have an Airbnb, and maybe you just want to test your toes in like an STR, but I think this is a good kind of way to, if you want to self-manage it, it's way less work than an STR because you don't have the constant check-ins and guest comments and, issues and whatnot. So I feel like it's a way to dip your toes in if you want. And then you can always go, I mean, you basically are that much closer to having an STR, right? Because you've got it furnished. So
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Especially for anyone who's listening and watching who has a long term that you're like, maybe I'll do the short term, but I don't know if I'm in the hottest area for a short term rental, or if I don't know if I want to go all the way there. So you could try this. So along those lines, then, do your guests who are there for, let's say, a month to 3 months, let's say on the shorter side, right? A month to 3 months, are they still expecting the same stuff that an STR guest expects with, toilet paper and salt and pepper and, and
nope.
fresh towels and all that jazz? Or is it like
No,
a
I mean,
long-term tenants? Like, there's your stuff, have at it.
I like to say, like, look, when you come in, you're like coming into an Airbnb. Like, I make sure there's like in the nitty gritty, like 3 rolls of toilet paper, fresh towels, salt and peppers refilled, there's some olive oil. But after that, you're on your own. I
So
don't have to
it kicks you
restock
off.
any of that.
You like kick them
Yeah.
off.
I just kind of like, and I want to set the tone. Like, I usually put a bottle of wine and some chocolate and a little note just to be like, hey, welcome. This is, I hope you enjoy your stay. But after that, like, I might have to go change out. Sometimes I'll change out a battery in the lock or something, but there's not it's a different mindset. There's not the
Mm-hmm.
expectation of like, I'm a guest, I'm in a hotel. It's
Mm-hmm.
more like I'm renting it. Oh, it's kind of a hybrid model, but no,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't get the like, I need this pan because they're probably going to buy it because they're going to be there for 3 months or what, those questions. So it's a
Yeah.
lot less. I do get high maintenance people, but it's for the most part, they kind of cruise and you'll answer the occasional question like when's garbage day, but you just don't have to kind of run that thing over that someone needs or an iron or something.
Yeah. You're like, no, not doing that. Not doing
Yeah,
that.
that's why I mean it is less money, but it's less just maintenance, I guess, as far as guest maintenance, if you can call it maintenance, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think so, one thing that I'm try to at least all the time be cognizant of my time, because time is literally the most precious commodity we have, right? And especially when you become a busy entrepreneur and you're like yourself and myself and you're a little scatterbrained because you got all these different ideas, all these different things going on and different, income streams, right? So you're all over the place, but the time that you spend, those hours that end up adding up to days over the course of months or years, right? All that time that you could be doing, maybe finding another deal, right? Getting another
Totally.
property, maybe just doing some other type of real estate transaction, or buying another place that's getting that extra cash flow. That, hey, here's another 3 grand, 5 grand a month cash flow that I got from this place, and I had the time to find that place because I wasn't going and replenishing coffee every couple days, or your team, right? Hopefully you have a team. You're at that point, or you're getting to that point in your biz, but all of it, right? It all comes together. And so I think that's important. So, I mean, I like the time aspect of it. And especially if the numbers are not that far off, it's like, heck yeah, like
Yeah.
make a
I mean,
swing at it.
again, I think test or market, like but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, all those things. Like even I had cleaners, I would still go and one was right next across. I would go and check the cleaners because I'm just neurotic and I'd be like, did they miss,
Mm-hmm.
just the mind space it takes up, right? So yeah, I mean,
Mind space, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just another strategy to kind of be like, oh, I didn't know it was really, I didn't know what the midterm meant. I thought you just did STR or long term. I didn't know there was kind of a middle ground. So yeah.
So what would you recommend to somebody who's thinking about getting into midterms right now? To anything positive, and then what's your negatives or your cautionary hold up? Think about this.
Yeah, I would say, do some research. I'm a big fan of like testing. Like if you're thinking about it, like throw it up on a couple of the sites, virtually stage it. It's very low kind of amount of money to test it. Like don't make assumptions like, hey, I'm going to get this much for it. Just kind of see, do you have inquiries? It's a good way to
Mhm.
test your price. And if you don't, maybe to stay long term. And I would say downside wise, it's an investment to furnish it, right? I mean, you will recoup that, but it definitely, the line items really add up and you can be thrifty. You can, you know, you can just get it all on Amazon, get it shipped to you, or you can kind of go Facebook Marketplace, but it's an investment. Like an STR midterm is definitely an investment that I feel like you definitely over time, you it pays back, but it's time and it's money to furnish a place. So those are my tips.
I love it. I love it. What if, so, and those are fantastic tips if you already have the property, of course, that makes a lot of sense. What if you don't have the property yet though, and you're looking at one that you could buy? You're like, is this one I want to buy or not? And it's not an amazing STR property. And I don't really want it to be a long-term rental, or it could, but can you kind of, because I love to get my fish before I get my fishing line in the water. Ideally, that's how I like to try to do
Right.
it. Can you try to get your people out there before you even get it and get a sense of what you could get for it and how the
I
activity
mean,
is?
the only example, yeah, I mean, you can when I'm under contract, I'll start advertising a rental before I even work closed on it. So I'll get
Hmm.
it out there. I would say, I mean, you kind of, yeah, I'm trying to think. Like the last duplex we bought, I was testing it. Like I was like, we had this one of them is like a basement apartment. So I was like, do I stage it or not? And that's where I came up with this like kind of virtually staging it. But I would say
Hmm.
you kind of just maybe look around, look on Furnish Finder, see what's out there. There's a lot of Facebook groups. To me, it's a little bit of a mix of kind of gut intuition and knowing your areas, right? And maybe talking to some other people. Cause yeah, you have to run your numbers. Like that's I think where people make the most mistakes in real estate is like
Hmm.
not really running your numbers, looking at your expenses. I think it's easy to get caught up and like, oh, it's going to make all this money. And then you start looking at it and can you get that much rent? And also like, things like what time of year, like this time of year is terrible for rentals. Summer, spring,
Hmm.
whole different story, I feel like. So it's kind of seasonal and you get better
Hmm.
deals in the winter, but it's kind of those little nuances. I feel like over the years you kind of realize, oh, it's harder to rent even a midterm, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know if that helps, but
No, that's awesome. And that actually kind of makes me think too. So like when I'm looking at a new property to buy either for myself or one of my clients or with a partner, I'm always looking at plan A, what we think we want for it, but what's plan B if plan A
yeah.
doesn't work out, and ideally plan C. I mean, I'm down to a plan D kind of guy, right? Like which is funny because normally in things in life, I'm like, whatever, we go for it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it's all good, right? But with real estate, okay, if A doesn't work, I don't want to be like, oh shit, what do we do now, right? So
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how
Yeah.
about B? And maybe B's not as good as A, but I'll take it. And C is like, okay, still not great, but so I think like
Yeah.
that's a great way to look at this to say, okay, let's try short-term rental because we think we can make more revenue, but midterm's good and it's still better than having a regular long-term buy and hold. And what I like to do with our program, the slow flips. So maybe we could start doing some slow flips with midterms. I don't know how we kind of sandwich those
Yeah.
together, but I like that idea, right?
Combine all the strategies. I love it.
Kind
I
of,
love I love
yeah.
as creative as you can get. Yeah. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
again, I think people STRs, Airbnb are so romanticized. You can make all this money. It's so easy. You can automate it. And you can, but it's also like you might just not be in the right place and it's all about
Mhm.
location. Then you could go to midterm. That's just a great way before you go all the way back down. Oh, I need to sell. It's like again that tiering those strategies,
Totally.
so because it is just such an investment to furnish a house and so much energy and love goes into it. And it's
Right.
kind of heartbreaking to think about taking it all out. At least
Yeah,
for
no,
me.
it's a lot of work. It's like moving. Like, like who likes
Yeah.
that? Like
We
once you're
just
there, you're there,
Yeah, we staged our last flip and it was really fun that we had to get furniture in there and all
Yeah,
those details. I'm like, God, this is fun, but man, staging is a lot of work.
it
So
is.
yeah.
So Furnish Finder is one of your top sites. What's a couple other ones you like?
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely kind of the go-to. And just a heads up, it doesn't look super sophisticated. Your kind of is this legit? Like just the interface isn't super kind of
Hmm.
current. Then I would say after that, I mean, it sounds, there's a couple of Facebook groups. If you just Google like traveling nurses, those are really great places. I usually throw it on like Zillow and all the places that will kind of syndicate it out. And oddly
Hmm.
enough, Craigslist is still a place. Like I don't know how it's still viable, but it is. So I usually just
Hmm.
have and I have a list of places I just kind of like go put it out and oftentimes they'll syndicate. So I'll just kind of furnish finders where I get most of my leads that some people come off Craigslist or Facebook. I don't have great luck with Facebook because it's usually a higher kind of rent. But
Yeah.
yeah, I have
When
those
you
are
say
my go-to
Facebook, are you talking like marketplace or are you
marketplace.
talking the groups?
Both. I usually do the groups,
Yeah.
and then I'll just try out Marketplace because it's not that hard. But I'd say
Yeah.
Furnish Finder and the groups are the best ways. And then I
Mhm.
put it out in social, which is more, I think, more for branding than really. I don't get a lot of leads from that, but I think people do. If you have the right hashtags, you can get found that way.
Totally. Well, maybe they want something else, and then you go find them that property.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, this is freaking great. I like literally want to just go on right now and start shopping and looking at some areas. I've got a couple properties right now I'm helping move for some clients
Oh,
that
cool.
we're not on there yet. So by the end of the day we'll be on there, right? And maybe that's what we need to fill it. So
Yeah. I mean, it's just another option, and I like the testing of it. That way, you're not committing to it before you get someone. So
totally.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, thank you for being here. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get access to Shona's course, where she's telling you literally like what mattresses to get, like how to furnish it, where to go, what not to get, right? All these kind of steps, where to put your things. Sign me up. Obviously, send it over ASAP, and I will take it. But if you want this, guys, she's making some tweaks to it right now. So text me, and I will get you the link for this. Okay. So text me at 612-662. 6629. Again, 612-662-6629. Text me and say the word Shona or midterm. Shona or midterm. Okay. And I will know that you are looking for access to getting her course. We'll get you all set up. And thank you for being here, and good to catch up.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
this
let
was
me know if
fun.
I get some more questions on some of the other stuff we were chatting about the other day
Will
and how I
do.
can help on that. So
Awesome. I appreciate it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, have a great rest of your day. Ladies and
You
gentlemen, thank you
too.
for being on the Creative Cash Flow Show. As always, any questions, any thoughts? If you're doing midterms, I'd love to hear from you. Where you're at, what are you doing? What's your success? What's your challenges? If you have more questions on it, hit us up, right? You can find me pretty much everywhere on social at the Jesse Mills, THE Jesse Mills, at the Jesse Mills, or again, 612-662-6629, or of course, thejessemills.com.